Before I start programming my expedition size, shit. Battery is out, is not charging properly. Before I start figuring out what my various players are going to do, a couple of things that I wanted to say in the introduction that I didn't get to. First one is, I have another game that's very much based on this, which was gifted to me by Emperors of Eternal Evil, the guys who do Cave Evil, called Mountain Men. It looks like a clone of Source of the Nile. And given that Source of the Nile wasn't republished since this, as far as I know, it's kind of a cool thing. So there was still, like, you know, an opportunity to get something not as, it doesn't look as rich, but whatever. I can't say a hell of a lot about it because I haven't broken it out and tried playing it. But why has this game, which was a long time multiplayer, you know, regular game, in the sense that I would often get my, you know, I would get my gaming group to play this as often as any of the other things other than, like, you know, 18xx or stuff that, you know, had a high addiction factor. This was one that regularly I could get just about anybody to play, right? Why is this so late on my video recordings? Well, there's an interesting reason behind it. It's essentially a multiplayer solitaire game. It's essentially a game where you're just flipping through. Oh, Title Bout also uses cards like this to figure everything out. The Status Pro did. Essentially, Title Bout is Status Pro for boxing. But anyway, the whole feel of the game is this kind of, yeah, we're each doing our own thing and barely interfering with each other and watching shit happen, and it's not fun the way, like, you're not sharing by reading stories to each other the way you are in Tales of the Arabian Nights, which I did cover earlier. And it's also a kind of a pain in the ass. There's a lot of card drawing, a lot of chart reading, a lot of shit like that, that just interferes with it all. And this is a game that I did not find terribly consuming as a solo game, because it's really designed as a solo game, and I'm not a fan of solo games. However, it hit a particular sweet spot for me because it was a solo game that is multiplayer. And you could say the same thing with Tales of the Arabian Nights in a lot of ways, but there were nicer features that I really wanted to show. So even though this got a reasonable amount of request points, thumbs ups, whatever, that I do on my request list, and it's a long time old game standby for me, it's just not something that I associate with solo play, because I don't like solo games solo. Anyway, let me start building me some expeditions. I'm not really looking forward to this. This was always the problem. I just knew that, you know, I saw it on the list and was like, oh, that's got a lot of votes, and that's not a war game. Cool. Let's get away from war games for a little while. One of the first things you want to consider is the victory point chart and what you're going to get, right? So let's say you were going with the canoe expedition, which I think is really, really one of the best. Well, you're going to run into a lot of river and hex. That means doctor and missionary are far and away your best choices, because they get 2 points for each river hex that you explore. So those become optimal for canoe expeditions. Likewise, if we look at the mountain expedition, possibly coming out of here, where there are a lot of mountains already, or maybe up there, you take a look and you're like, okay, it's bad to be the ethnologist or journalist or zoologist, but everything else gets 2. You might want to consider, hey, highest mountain or something along those lines as being particularly valuable. Geologist has the advantage of cataracts giving a point, which is useful, again, with the rivers. You might find cataracts more often there. Velt is particularly interesting to the zoologist. There's likely a lot of velt over here, and maybe over here. So again, things to think about. Let's look again. Jungle, there's a lot of jungle. Now, jungle is hard to cope with. But if you wanted to look at jungle as the type of terrain you wanted to go through, explorer, zoologist, and botanist are the best. So again, you know, you kind of want to think about where you're planning on doing your exploration, because you've got free choice in this version of the game of where you want to start and what you want to do. I don't know how I'm going to make my selection. There are 8 different types of people. I kind of feel like I want to trigger a couple of them and force them, and then maybe randomize within the rest. So the ones I'm thinking about is, look, the guys who are good in the river, a doctor or a missionary, I definitely want to make something that does that. Just as a, because that's what I think is sort of the best thing. I had a friend who was convinced geologists are particularly good, so I'm going to take one of them. And I'm going to take I think a zoologist, because of the being able to shoot animals a little better and stuff like that. So that's 3 of them. Let's roll a d6 for the 4th. And I would have taken doctor, so I'm going to take a missionary as well. And I will write those 4 down and then figure out where they want to head. And we'll do it with the secret placement. Which is actually, so the secret placement is kind of a pain, because if 2 people end up in the same place, that's something I talked about, it's kind of a disadvantage. But if 2 people don't end up at the same place, that's a problem for the journalist, because the journalist wants to interview people. And, you know, out of 75 victory points, 3 per player means that I'm only going to get like 10 victory points out of that. But that's a good chunk. It's worth aiming for. My initial decisions, and by the way, I could have used 5 with the number of game logs I have, but you know, 4 players is more than I want to deal with, to tell you the truth, anyway. So we're going to do them in this order: red, yellow, green, blue. Just for player order, because that's what I got here. So red is going to be a geologist. He's going to start with a horse expedition here. I feel like there's some advantages to that. The geologist likes mountains particularly, so I feel like that's not a terrible place for him to go. You might have made a convincing argument for trying to explore the Orange River, but the source of the Orange River in the mountains is already detected. This other one's Velt. Fuck that. Yellow. Yellow is going to be a zoologist. I'm going to go with a canoe expedition here. I think canoe expeditions are just the best. He's in the Velt. The nice thing about canoe expeditions is they give you extra victory points no matter what for finding the river lines. And the Zambezi is a pretty decent sized river, so I'm going to get a lot of exploration out of that. He's going to go with that. This is just really kind of I'm shooting from the hip here. The next one is a missionary green and then a doctor blue, and they're near each other. Now, they both started here with the intention of going up the Congo. Whoever goes second may end up going up the QN instead, just for the sake of not trying to compete with one another. So there you have it. Now, I should have placed these before we made our selections. Let me randomize them and place them. People would already have thoughts, though, of what they want it to do. So, maybe. But then that means that those thoughts could change, right? Not based on what other people have on the board, but rather based on where these chits end up. Nobody took the Nile expedition, the camel expedition. I mean, it could be camel, it could be boats. Either one works very nicely. Somewhere, the longest river is here. I think I forgot to mention this. When determining the furthest hex count, the shortest, the Nile is special on other rivers because the mouth is not on the map board. Add 25 hexes to the river system for overall length. So actually, Khartoum with the Nile is not a bad expedition. Getting around this can be tricky, but it might not be bad for a geologist. But this is the plan that players have. Now I'm going to play the chits and then maybe reorganize the plans. And maybe try to get this battery charged. Oh, I've spread these out. They have to be at least 5 away from any published hex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe not here. Yeah, that's okay. And at least 3 away from any other counter on the board. Again, like with half hexes, and natives and stuff like that, there's a reasonable argument to be made that these get reassessed each time, each session, and any that have already been found wouldn't be put back in the chit cup. I just did this out of my hand. It's kind of nice. Counters, Avalon Hill counters. They're slick on one side, matte on the other. The matte side can take tobacco stains if you've got fingers like mine. But yeah. And now I'm going to reassess my choices because, blue and green, both we're placing over here, but I think we're just going to go with them. What the hell? They're not unreasonable choices. This puts the 2 players who have kind of what I think are the strongest choices in a position where they're basically picking the same location, which puts them into a bit more conflict. But one of them, I think blue, is going to probably end up going down here to avoid getting too crowded. This means South Africa is going to get explored more quickly than the northern areas. I have not had good luck coming out of here, which is one reason that I avoided it. It's not a horrible choice, but it's not a great one. I don't know, a camel expedition could be interesting. But nobody writes one up here. You could do it based on the horse expedition. It's the same costs and whatnot, so that's fine. I gotta fix my battery's not charging, the one I just put there, and then start making my decisions as to what my expeditions are actually going to look like. A lot more than anything else in the game, like your choice of character or anything like that, is really just the luck of the draw in the game. You can improve your chances a little bit, but a lot of it is just crappy shit can happen. Your expedition can be wiped out, real early, and you're just like, well, what do I do? If I return, I got nothing to publish, so I might as well die and speed up things or keep taking risks. And then, once I have enough to publish, that $1,000, a whole $1,000 expedition can be wiped out pretty easily. Whereas, it could also survive and get you, very unlikely, but it might just be able to get you to your victory conditions, that's 75 victory points. I'm always played around with the idea of playing multiple sessions of this. I may have done it once or twice where I played more than one session, but I never kind of filled out the map mostly. So, I don't know. I'm going to use these expeditions because I haven't played in so long, or at least close to these. But you look at them and you see a significant difference. So if we take a look at the foot and canoe expeditions, they have a lot of bearers. 16 bearers and 17 bearers. 16 enough to handle 2 canoes. That's going to be the basis of the plan. Foot expedition, you probably have more leeway, but you need a lot of bearers to carry everything. What does that mean? Well, that means feeding your people becomes a bigger problem, right? Whereas here, we're looking at only 2 bearers but a lot of horses, because we're going to be looking at Explorer is 1, 4 Ascari is a guide, and 2 bearers. 6, 7 people. That's 7 of my horses. That means I have 4 extra horses, so my 2 bearers are going to each be leading 2 horses. That feels about right? The 16 bearers for 2 canoes, exactly right. The foot expedition, again, I just don't think foot expeditions are a wise choice, mainly because you have to explore at kind of at faster paces to get anywhere. All right, let's start building. I hate doing this part. I really hate it. We calculated out the mounted expedition for the geologist, and this is what they suggest: 4 Ascaris, 2 bearers, a guide, for an expedition size of 8, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's going to have a transport capacity of nothing, because my bearers aren't carrying. But I had 11 mounts. 8 of them are riding mounts to cover those guys. 3 are pack mounts, which carry 60 and 40. Okay, so I have 100 total transport capacity, and then I write these down. I have 65 rations, 20 gifts, a musket. Spare musket's a good idea. You might lose a musket, and that would suck. And that adds up to 86 of my 100. But I see an immediate flaw here. I am paying, first of all, I'm not using up my total transport capacity. I've got an extra pack mount, which cost me $50, and I could get rid of a bearer for that. Actually, I only have 3 pack mounts, right? Why do I want an extra bearer? Why do I need 2 bearers? I only need 1 bearer to carry these. That extra bearer is sort of like insurance, and it might be worth it, but my Explorer could double up as that insurance if need be. Yes, that'll lose me Ascaris. So what happens if I get rid of a bearer? Bearers are cheap. Where's the cost here? $10 each. But if I get rid of the bearer, then I have an extra mount. So I'd have to get rid of the mount as well. That's another 50. So I'd have 60 extra bucks. Here I've got 14 extra space. I could grab some more rations. So if I have, I'm worried about feeding all these people, because all I have in rations is 65. And I'm also worried about the amount of gifts I have. But again, I only have room for 14 more stuff. If I get rid of a mount, I won't have that much. But if I take muskets instead, I can exchange them for lots of goods. Now, muskets are more expensive than the goods. As a money trade-off, it's not good, but as a space trade-off, it's very good, because 1 musket is 2 dice worth of stuff. So I'm going to shift these around a little bit from what they start as. I end up with $60 more for getting rid of a horse and a bear, right? I end up with 5 less transport capacity because I got rid of one of my riding horses. but my one bearer can handle the 3 pack mounts. I don't have enough money to get me another horse, but that's okay. So that means I have 9 more space. $60 with 9 more space isn't great, but if I buy 6 muskets with that $60, I'm still within range here. And then I have better trading opportunities with the stuff I have. Say I bought 5 muskets. Food and gifts are each $2 each, so that's not a great deal. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy 6 more muskets and give myself 7 total muskets. And that'll put me up to a 92 here. Take a look at Yellow's choice. He was going with a canoe expedition. The base canoe expedition is 6 Ascaris, 16 bearers, and a guide. That comes to 24 people, including the explorer, with 2 canoes. Now, 24 times 15 is 360 here. So what do we have? We have 175, 179. $539 capacity taken up. That doesn't feel great. I've got a lot of muskets. That's not a great deal. I'm not thrilled with the amount of Ascaris I have. I'm going to have to feed 24 people a turn. That's only like 5 turns off my rations. Now, yes, my muskets are going to be able to probably feed maybe half my expedition each turn. So instead of 25 a turn, I'm looking at more like 10 turns that I can exist. But I'm not really thrilled with what I have here. And I have spent the full $1,000 in each of these cases, which means that I would have to get rid of a fair amount of money. So to try to do this mission, what I'd like to do is get maybe another Ascari in here. Now, another Ascari would cost me 15 more people, but it would also cost me $50. This is the zoologist, but he has no bonus in hunting. Fuck. And he's not going to be able to get food as easily as, like, the missionary would. Let me think about this a little bit. I like the idea of being short a spare musket, but I turned 4 of my muskets in and 10 of my gifts to get myself an extra Ascari. That gets me closer to the kind of firepower that I want on a team. I'm just not thrilled with the hunting capabilities that I had before, but with 8 guys for 25, that's not as bad. And I shifted things around. This is, I think, pretty close to what I'm used to using in this game. Who I think maybe has better opportunities for dealing with natives, I went with the base canoe expedition for, that you saw before. And for blue, I'm going to think about him awfully carefully. I may tweak that yellow expedition a little bit more. I'm not quite sure how. This is my favorite configuration for a canoe expedition. I traded away all my gifts and muskets and 10 of my rations to get 2 more Ascaris. Again, it leaves me without an extra musket. I don't know how I feel about that, but I think I'm okay about it. And that gives me a little bit more food production than I would otherwise get. So again, I'm just skewing these a little bit. I think that the canoe expedition is the strongest option. I don't even really recommend using the foot expedition at all. It's just too much of a pain. Look at this. You're using, okay, they give you a lot of Ascaris with it. You're not paying for as much, but the movement rates get so slowed down. That's the real problem with it. You have one more bearer than you have in the canoe expedition, but you have a significant number of Ascaris, which is helpful. You have a decent amount of rations that you can carry, but the big problem is your movement rate. It's not horrible. If you don't have rivers to explore and you want to work out of, somewhere up here, it makes a lot of sense. Also, if you don't have a lot of money, you can get by with a foot expedition, later in the game, or if you're playing game 2 or whatever, a lot easier than you can get together a horse or a canoe expedition. So quite often that second expedition ends up being really, really on a tight budget, even if you publish a decent amount. All right, I think we're ready to play, which means we start with the geologist, who is red, down here. He's in the port of Durban. Explored hexes, there's no danger. So I can go as fast as I want with 6 movement points. Moving through explored territory, costs me 1 movement point each. So I could just get up to 1, 2, 3. There is some danger in my next move. A lost number of 3 isn't too bad. What am I? I'm the geologist? Let's do it. Let us declare that we're moving recklessly. 1, 2, 3. I have 2 more movement points. I'm going to go into this hex. So I kind of mark that like that. And the first thing we draw is we see what the terrain is going to be. So we've got map 4-3. Let's look here. Okay, 4 would be this hex, 3 is this hex, so we have a mountain. That's something we don't mind entering. So in we go. Okay. The next thing is there a river? We take a look at river. We get a river begins here. And we don't draw another card. It should go to 3 or 4. Okay? So we put a river begins, heading down this way. All right. Next thing we check is there a tribe there? Natives? It's not a hex-containing jungle, so no. For each hex entered or occupied, which contains a tribe, well, we didn't get one. And we want to hunt. We look on the hunting table in mountain or veldt. It's a 5. It contains a river, so it brings us over to column 7. Our activity level is shitty, so we take a -1 on this. And we get a 0, but there is no 0, so we get 1 food per. Now we've only got 4 Ascaris with us, plus ourselves. So we produce 5 food, so we have to eat 3. And unfortunately, I should have a different thing here, but we're down to 62 rations now. And now we've entered a hex that we just explored, so we draw for a special. We are a geologist. We discover unusual geological formation if in desert. Great. That isn't a named thing that we get rid of. It would just be something that we could publish without any problem. So we've done one player. Pretty cool. We explored a hex. We get a little red marker here to indicate that that's our hex. We're heading towards some of the cool shit that's out there. And we'll move to the next player. I'm going to go into this kind of level of detail for a while. But at some point or another, I'm going to step back and not, go over every single action on every single card. Maybe just hit really intriguing stuff as we go. All right, let me swap batteries. I think I'll take a little break, actually. Yeah, and because I did a thing, right? In a lot of detail. Forget one thing. I'm in a mountain hex. I should have drawn for a spectacular discovery. We did not get a peak, so nothing of interest there. Actually screwed up there. That first draw should have been for a cataract. There wouldn't be one of those. Let's draw for the peak now. We got a 17,500 peak. Otherwise, we would have had to check the cataract. So if the cataract happened on the first card, we would also check to see if there's a cataract on the spectacular. So here, we've got a peak, 17,500, and that is number one right now, which is potentially of importance. Now, if we were to go home and publish right now, what would we get? We would have gotten a hex with the highest mountain, if we were going to win the game, which is worth 8 to us. But in addition, we get 2 for the mountain, a river and hex is 1, so we've got 3 points towards our 75 if we wanted to just, go home and publish with that. But we'd have 8 more for that peak if it got us to the 75. Of course, it's not gonna. We need a lot more for that. But you can see some of these are worth 20. So as a geologist, finding King Solomon's mine would be worth 20 victory points, which gets us a big hunk of the way, right? All right. Now I'm going to actually stop for a while. Our next player is the zoologist, who's yellow. If we look at the activity level on a canoe, I can't read it. It's 2, 4, and 6 movement points. I forgot to make a lost arrow? No. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. It would take me 5. I'd have to go reckless to be able to get up there. Again, I'm willing to do that, grab an extra turn, essentially, because otherwise I'd have to hunt somewhere else. So let's do this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going into that hex. First we check what we get. No disaster check because we were in a published hex. Terrain is 3 or desert. That's not great. 3 is going to be down. That's not going to happen. So we get a desert. We don't know where the river is yet. So hold on. Next thing is the river. So we take a look at river. This is a river A, ends. Not allowed. If the river ends early, I think we end up with a river continues. The reason it's not allowed is we need 16 hexes of river. We've only got 2. So we get terrain 2 here. 2 would be backing up. That doesn't work. So we get terrain 5, which is straight across. So let's put the river across. It's in desert. So we color it brown. Okay. Next thing we're supposed to check. This doesn't give me everything, but the next thing on the list is the tribe. So we look for natives. In a hex-containing mountain, no. Which means we don't worry about the size of the tribe. Now this is, if there's a native we have to deal with this stuff. We don't. We should be looking at the spectaculars though, and those aren't actually recorded in here. We have to check for cataract. Now that's another card, I believe. That's how we did it last time. Cataract if in desert, otherwise there's an oasis. So there is a cataract here. We check for a waterfall. Mountain, lake, no. Okay. We're in here, we've discovered it. We haven't made our way through the cataract yet. Next turn we're going to have to worry about that. We're going to have to do a portage. That's going to cost us movement points. We don't really want to be in the desert because of food issues. I should get one of my nice little erasers down here. The pencil ones. I don't think I have them. This guy's great, but I have ones that are on a slidey thing that I can do finer work with, which would be helpful here. Okay, and now we want to check our hunting. We're in the desert, but it gets +2 due to the river being present, which is the same as an oasis. We were going fast, so we have a -1 to the die roll. We get a 4. That's going to give us 1 food per hunter. We have 8 Ascaris, but a big 25-person expedition. This is the problem with the canoe expeditions. 25 minus 8 says I have to eat 17 food. That means I'm at 108. Now you can cross these out. They kind of suggest that, but it ends up clearing out, it ends up filling the thing so quickly that it's not really that helpful. And finally, I check for a bonus. I am a zoologist. I discover a rock Hyrax if in the mountain. That would particularly go into my sheet, and that would be a particular animal that I would have to then carry in my special bonus items. And we're done. Our next one is green. Green's going to go for the Congo. Again, 6 movement points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's not going to work. But what is the portage going to cost us in movement points? And this is an important thing. You have to keep track of which side of the cataract you're on, and there's not really a trivial way to do that. I can put myself under the explored marker, and that would indicate that that I need to deal with that cataract instead if I want to go around that. That's just a cheap reminder. It's not great, but it's what there is. You wouldn't be facing this much, if you're playing, kind of just sitting around the table playing, especially as one person. But when you're soloing it, multiple people, it's a pain in the ass, and when you walk away a lot, it's a bigger pain in the ass. Okay, so green wants to go for the Congo. Let's see if they can get around, because if I can't get around it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I can go normal movement and hunt a little better. But if I can get around the cataract, that would be useful. That cataract's going to cost me a portage. Now, I have 16 bearers. Each canoe weighs 40. So at this point, I have to look at this. Carrying my stuff is going to be a little different, and we should really have a separate column for portages just to help me here. But I don't really want to do that. 125 and 54 is 179. Okay, I can only carry 160, so it's going to cost me 2 movement points to get around the portage. I'm going to be able to get that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I moved reckless. I'm in the jungle. I have to hunt because I don't have food here. It's jungle with river, so that puts me all the way up here. I'm going to get at least 2 food per hunter, and that's all I get. I have 6, 7 hunters, so I produce 14 food. That means I eat 10 for the turn. And you can see, you're going to very quickly run out of food if you're not careful. Right? That becomes one of the big facets in the game. Now, I could do the same thing with Dr. Blue here, but he's going to go for this other location. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sounds good to me. I'm in the veldt with a river. Nothing is explored or worried about. Veldt with a river puts me on column 7, but I'm at -1 because of the reckless movement. I get a 3. That produces 2 food per. I have 9. That gives me 18 food. I didn't calculate my total size. 16, 17, 25, 26. I have more people though, so I eat 8 of my food. Now that 8 of my food that I ate gets me down to 107. If we take a look at the other guy who had the regular mission, he's at 115. So basically, you know, I'm feeding at a better rate because of those extra Ascaris I bought, which is why I picked what I did with him. So we've gone through 1. I'm going to step back and do the other players. We'll worry a little bit about things. So red is nothing too exciting. This is where we're going to hit more sort of the main line of the game as far as I'm concerned, right? Because that first turn we had kind of a weird situation where we're looking at, you know, I want to move as fast as I can because I'm not suffering anything. But here I pick my activity level. Now I am a geologist sitting here in the mountains. There's a river. The river is worth exploring. It might get me down to the Vol 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. If that connects up, that gets me, and it's almost certain to do so, that'll get me all the way to filling this river out. So this river will be completed if this is indeed the other source for it. It's possible there's a fork or something. Unlikely though. So my activity level with a mounted expedition, if I go cautious, it's 2 movement points. If I go normal, it's 4 movement points, and I can explore 2 hexes. I don't know which to do. I think I'm going to go normal. Once I make that decision, I check for a disaster. A bearer straying from your camp in the veldt. I'm not in the veldt, so this doesn't happen. You have to meet the requisites. So 2 movement points gets me into this hex. We'll check it, and this may be the last time we do this. I don't know. Terrain is 5 or 6, which are these 2. Doesn't happen. The next option is mountain. That's cool. Let's check the river. This is river A because we got water going in there. It forks. It forks into 1 and 6. So the river, and this is going to be weird, breaks like this and this. Now I don't know where that's going. That could be another source for the river heading up that way. We'll check natives. Hex-containing mountains. First time we've had natives show up. Okay. So, we pull a native out. And we have number 40, I think. We can put the mountain in there. Okay, native number 40 will be in there. And you notice I haven't actually moved. I'm in there. I'm just let's check his size. Native strength, range to the nearest port. 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes away. Puts me over here. You can see the tribes can get pretty big right away. That's going to be a small tribe. That's nice. I have to pick a strategy with them. I'm going to use that in a friendly manner with great display of technology. If I'm 3 or more hexes from a port or another tribe discovered this turn, I am. Here I need 2 dice. I was going normal. We get an 8. We compare an 8 to this. That's a C. C is the charge table. That ain't cool. Okay, so we took a number of Ascaris plus Explorer. We don't have a lot. We only have 5. It's a small tribe, luckily. We roll another 8. We have a win. W over there. So now we go to the consequences of victory. We roll a 9. That's not great. We lost an Ascari. We don't get his gun back. So we're down to only 3 Ascaris now. Now we have a problem. We have too many mounts because his mount is still there. One of these ride mounts gets dropped. I'm going to hold that off because we're going to have to shoot that mount because we only have 1 bearer. Unless I want to carry animals with, unless I want to start having Ascaris run away. The fact that we defeated him doesn't work at this point. Okay, the next thing we do is the results of victory. And we get a 6. A 6 is no natives captured. So we don't get to raid the village or anything. Not sure we'd want to. Now, this is one of our 2 hexes that we're exploring. And that will put me... I don't get a spectacular, but I do get to check for... I do get to check the map marking. Cataract in mountain or an oasis. I mark the cataract. I don't know. Let's check the numbers. 4 and 3. 4 is this way, so we're going to put the cataract in that direction. Okay. And I don't have to portage around it. Now, since I didn't make friends with the natives, that doesn't really help me. But I have another hex to move. I'm going to go into this hex because I think that'll finish off the river. And then this becomes going towards another source. Let's see what that hex is. 3-5 jungle swamp. 3 is that. 5 would be that. We actually get a jungle swamp. That's allowable. Jungles are only prohibited next to desert. A swamp can be part of the waterway. Moving into a swamp. Oh, I forgot to make lost checks. Fuck me. Okay, in the mountains, trying to go into this hex. Lost check was a 2. I have a guide. I was fine. And then this one was also mountains. Lost check of a 2 with a guide is fine. Going into the swamp has its problems, but I'm going to do it. It is part of this river basin. We have completed the requirements for the river. I don't have to check for river because it's a swamp. I can't possibly have any. So I check for natives. I'm in a hex containing jungles. I found another native group. This one is 33. We write that down. I can't pick type 6 on this. Range to the nearest port. 5. This is a medium size group. We defeated this guy. I can mark that. It doesn't really mean anything. Their attitude currently is charge. Not really that important. I need to swap batteries very, very shortly. Okay. What does that mean? Let me consider the different options I have. Going on the defensive, can't draw for a bonus hunt. Retreat back. Expedition attempts to seek contact with great caution and great show of force. That tends to generate violence. As though they're not there. Might work, but I could get ambushed for that. Open and friendly manner. There's definitely some risk to that. I like the idea of remaining and going in the defensive or policy 2. I'm going to go with policy 2. I did normal movement this time. We get a 5. We get to negotiate. Okay. That might be cool. I want to give them a decent amount of gifts. 10 gifts is quite good. Let us do that. I have a lot of extra muskets in this. So we check on the negotiation table. We get a 6. They're going to be friendly with us. And the attitude was N for what that matters. I've moved into here. There would not be a cataract. There would not be anything special. There's no need to check. I could trade with them. What's my capacity right now? 72, 79. I'm okay. They're going to feed me because they're friendly. But I got a problem. I got too many horsies. I wish I could trade them a horse. If I start leading that horse, we've got a problem. How come I only have 6 riding mounts? That's correct. My expedition has gotten pretty small. He can carry 3. Did I erase a mount? I don't remember. Ugh. Don't think so. I think I'm fine. Oh. Yeah, I'm not sure. Either way, we have enough food. I'm going to look for a bonus for the geologist, which is discover a lead if in mountain or by river. I'm neither. I would be by a lake if there was one next to me. And we can kind of get a view of what we're looking at here. We got some additional things. So like geologist, which is what we are, likes cataracts. I have found 1 cataract. Swamp is not going to be particularly good for a geologist, but it's still worth a point for the hex. So that's not too bad. And we're done with our turn. I feel like I'm already highlighting a lot of what I don't like about this game. This game, I rated it about a 5. I told you it's an old standby of mine for taking to groups. 1, it sucks solo. It really does. But even, playing it with others, it's just not that exciting. The storyline, there's so many little procedural steps, so much shit that you have to take care of. Some of it's not easily expressed on here. And I don't feel like Game 2 helps at all. It's just different procedural steps that you go through. It might add a little bit of story to it, but not much. And I really don't find it all that exciting to go through. All right, let's look at the next one, which is this zoologist here. He has to make a disaster check. His guide is knocked out of the canoe by a low-hanging branch while riding through the jungle and drowns in the river. It has to match all of those. You need a guide, canoe, jungle, and river. I don't have all of those. I'm in the desert. That's basically the one thing that's not there. Oh, I forgot about guides. I gotta remember the lost checks for that. All right. I'm gonna be trying to move into here. Oh, I should have checked, I should have figured out how much movement I need. I think I've got 16 bearers who can carry 160 stuff. My stuff here is 148. So it's going to take me 2 movement points to get through here. Another 2 would get me into the next hex, which I feel it's kind of necessary to go a hex each time. So I was traveling at normal. I would have post-figured that out as well. Now I make a lost check. I'm following the river with a guide. There's no way I can get lost. So we determine this hex. Terrain 5-3 lake. We found a lake. I'm not going to even worry about the size of a level 1 lake, I think. I don't know. No. Because I have no, this is another factor that's just an annoyance. I have no way of marking down what this, which lake this is. And it's almost certainly not going to be of any importance. But okay, well, the course of the river is using the lake. Is there a tribe? I don't think tribes can occur on lakes, but maybe there's an island or something. I don't know. I guess I should keep it here until. What else am I doing? Now, if I was a land expedition, I wouldn't be able to explore lake. On the other hand, as a river expedition, or as a canoe expedition, I can't explore anything that doesn't have water. Swamps have water, though. They're just really unpleasant. Yeah, let's see what the lake size is, I guess. It's plus 35, so I have a 1 plus 35 lake. Not going to be that important. I've gotten past the cataract. I'm here. I can hunt. Hunting on a lake is a 2. Not very good. It's hard to shoot animals in the water. We went normal, so we don't get any kind of bonus. I get no food, which means I have to eat 25 of this. So that brings me down to 83 food, and I need a hand. A little bit more in some detail. Remember, I crossed the cataract already with him. He is going to travel cautiously then, and only move 1 hex. Is that necessary? I don't know. I don't have a disaster chance right now. Yeah, let's go normal. Get me 2 hexes. So I don't have to draw disaster. I'm just going to map this out and come back after his turn. I got a jungle hex. I started to draw it in and was drawing it in blue instead of green. You need a rag in this game all the time. To something of a problem here. I should have only drawn half of this swamp in. I found a swamp in the next space. I can't actually enter a swamp. I only have 2 movement points, and somewhere or another cannot enter jungle swamp. Really? I didn't realize that. Must move along rivers, may move through. Requires 4 movement points to enter a swamp. So I got to bug out of that hex, and I'm in this hex. I've already checked for natives and whatnot. There aren't any, which means we can hunt. We're in Jungle River, which is quite good. But we get a shitty roll, which only gets us 2 food per Ascari. So all I get is 12 food. I have to eat 12. That gets me down to 103. The doctor has also moved normal movement. Found a Velt River went across because it couldn't end. Here it also continues into that hex. I found natives here. It's a small tribe because it's close to this. I can't do 6 because of that. I think I'm going to do 5, which is an open and friendly attitude. With normal movement, a 7. I get to negotiate with them. I don't have any gifts. I don't have any muskets. I don't have anything to give them except rations. I don't believe I can give them rations. So, I don't know. Let me see. We're on the negotiation table. I could give every item maybe I chose the wrong thing. I don't want to go open with them if I don't have any gifts with me. Let's say instead I did the attempt. Expedition remains in the hex defensive. Can't draw for bonus or hunt. We don't want to do that. As though they're not there. We'll do 4 instead. Okay, we got charged instead. So we get an attitude of charge now. We only have 9 Ascaris, but they're a small tribe. Where do we fight? Where do we fight? Native attack. No, that's attitude. Native attack. 9 Ascaris against a small tribe. We got a 4. That's an H. They hide. This is kind of the best we could do. So we can just ignore them at this point. And we get there. That's a second sequence all the way through. I'm going to call it for a while. I don't know if I'm going to go to sleep yet. You can see where it's going to be kind of a fatiguing experience as a whole. I forgot how much I hate this game solo, and it's not that good opposed. I may end up quitting, but I'm going to play for a while longer. But I think you've seen enough of how the mechanisms work, etc., to see what kind of game it is. And, I've had my fun with it. There's no question. There's been some exciting and ridiculous situations where somebody's mission gets entirely wiped out real early in the game, and that's funny, to everybody, including the person who gets wiped out. It's also especially funny to see, like, I can remember cases where somebody got wiped out early and they just keep going and taking risks, and they just survive the whole thing basically on their own, just carrying, their musket and getting quite far and then deciding to head home and then like getting killed on the way home or something. But yeah, it's it can generate kind of exciting storylines. It's just this procedural effort involved in playing the game is just so obnoxious that it's like, yeah, I just don't know that it's all that worth the enjoyment factor of it. It feels, I don't know. It feels like an obnoxious solo design to me.